Raymond, thank you for taking a minute out. And my first question to you is, how did you get through the last 3.5 years with the pandemic? How did you survive it, and how did it change you?
Well, the first thing I did when I heard that the world might be locked down for a week or two, that's what everyone thought back then, is I called my coach and he said, maybe the world will accept Zoom. If it does, you can keep your business. If it doesn't, you'll have to think of something else. And luckily, the world did pivot to Zoom. And what miracle that happened to me, a miracle, is that I've been on stage for 40 years. I started in May of 1983. And I've loved traveling around the world. I love going into frequent flyer lounges. I love being upgraded to business class because I'm such a frequent flyer. But I thought I was a professional speaker. It turns out that if I got a speaking gig in, say, Perth, Australia, which takes me 2 or 3 days to get there from Toronto, Canada, and then I speak for 90 minutes, and then it takes 2 or 3 days to get back and recover. I was actually a traveler for a week and a speaker for 90 minutes. So I actually was a professional traveler for 40 years, not a professional speaker. And near the end of that time, I started wondering, am I going to be doing this when I'm 90? Am I going to be doing this when I'm 100? Like, how is it going to end? Because my city, as big as it is, isn't big enough for me. And the lockdown did it. I now stay in my beautiful log cabin way out in the wilderness. Deer come and visit us. It's the most gorgeous cabin you could imagine. And I give Zoom lessons more than before the lockdown.
Wow.
Before the lockdown, I could give 1 or 2 speeches a week because they'd be in different cities. Now I can give 3 speeches a day and feel that I'm retired. So it has been a miracle for me.
So let's get to the heart and soul of what you do for a living. Obviously, you speak, but if you were in front of a bunch of third graders, it's career day, and one of the kids looks up and says, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer that child?
I help you double your income doing what you love. Even if it's a 5-year-old kid, that's what I say. I never want to vary. Broke people come up with an idea at the spur of the moment, and usually it's not a very clever idea. I teach my clients, and my coach teaches me, you come up with a one liner and you stick to it no matter what.
So, what did you want to be in the third grade? What was your dream to grow up and become?
I wanted to teach physics at university. I have been rated as a genius in mathematics. I graduated from university as a physicist, and I've never used any of it except one thing. I understand quantum physics, and that's why I am such a spectacular coach. Quantum physics, nobody understands. Heaven knows why. I can explain it in just a couple minutes. Quantum physics says that things aren't smooth, they come in packages, discrete packages. So, for example, Joe, if you wanted to go to a store and you asked for 1 1/3 quarts of milk, they'd laugh at you. They would say, milk comes in quanta, it comes in packages. You get 1 quart or you get 2 quarts, but you can't get 1 3/4 quarts or 2 1/5 quarts. And the same thing with quantum physics. You see, an electron can whirl around a hard center of an atom at 1 orbit away, or at 2 orbits away, or 3 orbits away, depending on how much energy is given to it. But it can't be 1.5 orbits away. So physicists said, well, if I give an electron energy at the first orbit and it jumps up to the second orbit, how come I can't take a picture of it halfway between? And the answer is, as Einstein said, it only comes in 1 orbit level or 2 orbit levels. And so it has to leave orbit 1 and start re-existing at level 2 without going between, which is quite perplexing, but yeah, nevertheless, it's true. And I've incorporated that into my coaching. I call it actually orbit coaching because I can add giant energy to a client through my wisdom and have them leap almost instantaneously to a higher level. And when they vibrate at a higher level, because of my input of energy and wisdom, they suddenly have the goodies of life racing towards them. They suddenly earn more money. They suddenly have better relationships. People who bug them just suddenly go away. Amazing things happen that appear to be miracles.
So, Talk to me a little bit about the seeds that got into you to understand the whole idea of quantum and to be a speaker and to do these things that you do. How did all this begin and maturate into who you are today?
Well, I've always had coaches in my life. I learned very early on, watching sports, that every sports team has several coaches. Every individual sports player has a coach. And I said to myself, that's why ordinary people are so ordinary, because they don't have a coach. And as I grew up, I started noticing that ordinary people weren't ordinary. They were actually worse than ordinary, that almost everybody was failing. And not to make your show negative, but almost everybody is overweight. Almost everybody is underfit. Almost everybody dies broke. Almost everybody has a 50% rate in their marriage. And I said to myself, 50% failure rate, that's like every other time I get into a car, I smash into a brick wall, I'd stop getting into cars. And yet people eagerly get married all the time. With so much failure going on, I noticed, goodness gracious, my life is soaring because I have a coach. Athletes' lives soar because they have a coach. I look around, no one I know has a coach and their lives are failing. And so I made a commitment at a pretty young age that I would always have a coach. Now, when I was a teenager and in my early 20s, I couldn't afford it. But as soon as I could, as soon as I started making money, I hired the best coach that I could. And that's what has been a miracle in my life. I'm 79 years old. Believe it or not, people underguess my age by 5 to 15 years. And it's not just a coincidence. It's because I eat correctly and I play correctly and I think positively and I exercise regularly. It doesn't just happen by accident.
Yeah, yeah, that's so well said. Who's been a hero for you? Who's been kind of fuel, inspiration for your passion and for who you are in your life?
What a great question. One of my heroes is Dr. Nito Cobain. He is president of High Point University in Northern Carolina, and he taught me the principle of wow. He said, don't just deliver what you're paid to deliver. Don't just do what you're supposed to do, because all that does is break you even. If you want to be a great entrepreneur or a great anything, it starts once you've delivered the product. And most entrepreneurs finish when they've delivered the product. Say, okay, you paid me, I've delivered the product, it's over. And Nito taught me that that's when it starts. And if you don't do something extra, no one notices you. I mean, if I ran an ice cream stand and you said, how much is ice cream? And I said, $5 for 2 scoops. And you gave me $5 and I gave you 2 scoops. You'd never go to social media and say, guess what? I ordered 2 scoops and I got 2 scoops. You'd never say that.
Yeah.
But if on top of that, I put on some chocolate whip or I put on some sparkles or I gave you a free ticket to the movie theater across the street or something, you'd say, wow. And so I learned from Dr. Cobain how to create wow experiences. And that has made me so many fortunes in my life, because no matter what business I start, no matter what workshop I launch, the first thought in my mind is not how am I going to teach it well? I know I'm going to teach it well. That's just breaking even. That's just giving 2 scoops of ice cream for $5. I think of how can I create wow experiences, and people love me for it, and people come to expect it, and they love it, and they come back for more.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. If you can meet anybody alive on the planet right now that's an inspiration to you, who would you love to meet and talk to?
Oh my gosh, that is so easy. Mr. Elon Musk, the
Okay.
greatest entrepreneur of all time. Not because he's the wealthiest person that ever existed, but because he starts businesses with the intention of doing good and nothing else. And because he does so much good, money flies towards him. He didn't start Tesla to make money as a car manufacturer. He started Tesla because he wanted to decouple America from its dependence on foreign oil. He didn't start SpaceX because he likes putting satellites into into the stratosphere. Rather, he started it because he knew that man is so stupid that he's going to do something so profoundly fatal that Earth will be uninhabitable. And he personally decided to get Mars ready for humans. And so he does things for the social good. And he does it with such flair and elegance. And boy, I would love to interview him. I give speeches about Elon Musk. I'm in love with the guy. And the proof that he didn't start Tesla just to manufacture cars is he's recently said that the value of Tesla 5 years from now will be because of Tesla robots, not Tesla cars.
Interesting. So, obviously Elon has an enormous amount of motivation to do what he does and be who he is. What's that for you? What gets you out of bed? What gets you motivated? What gets you to want to accomplish what you want to get done with your life?
There is one thing that you are here. And when I say you, I mean Joe, the host, but I also mean every single listener and me and every successful and unsuccessful person you know. You're here for one reason this lifetime, one reason. And if you don't find out what that reason is, you will lead an unfulfilled life that leaves you kind of nagging and wondering, and is this all there is? Am I here just to pay my rent and to make breakfast for my wife? Is that why I'm here? And I found out what it is, and it's teaching. I love I love teaching. It's not like I make my money teaching. It's I'm a teacher. And I remember when my daughter was about 4 years old and she was coming to daddy's house for the weekend, my new wife grabbed me by the shoulders and said, I know what you're doing. You're creating a lesson plan for her. And I was thinking of a clever way to teach her math. And my new wife said, she's 4 years old. Just go to the playground and play with her. Don't teach her math. But I just take every opportunity to teach. I love teaching. And that's indeed what I'm doing on your show. I
Yeah,
love it.
yeah, for sure.
And it's your job. You must find out why you're here and then do it no matter what. And the weird thing is, when I tell people I help you double your income doing what you love, they always say, oh, no, I love sleeping in. Oh, you can't make any money at that. People who don't earn well, they don't earn well because they haven't found the one thing. So if you're sub-optimizing your life, if you're not doing what you came here to do, you'll make far less money. But broke people think that they'll make even less money if they start doing what they love. But the truth is they'll make more. Every single person who's wealthy is doing exactly what they love. Brad Pitt, Meryl Streep, Elon Musk, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, they loved what they do.
And it flows.
And
I remember in college, speaking of teacher, there was a professor that I had, and he used to always look at people and be like, "You have teacher eyes." He said that to me one time, and I always remember that. You can always see the sparkle. It's always there.
yes, but
For
no, it's
sure.
not always there. It's there for people like you who are doing what you love
Yeah.
or intending to do what you love. But for most people, that glint that you have, I have, is deadened because they've given up or they've never been introspective enough to find out what they want,
Yeah.
or they don't have a coach to help them identify what they want.
For sure. So let me ask you this, of all of the clients that you've had and all the experiences and people that you've moved, what's one of your favorite success stories, favorite fan letters?
I have one person that I've admitted into Orbit Coaching, and she is a nurse, Nurse Ruth. And at the very first session with her, I asked her, tell me about your life, what's coming up. And she said, oh, tomorrow morning I'm signing up for a franchise that's doing all the behind the scenes work, all the appointments, all the cancellations, all the billing and collections and the income tax. I don't want to do all that. I just want to help people as a nurse. I said, how much is it? And she said, $45,000. And I said, I don't want you to pay $45,000. I want you to pay zero. She says, it's not possible. You don't understand. It's not possible. A franchise treats everyone equally. And I said, memorize this sentence. I taught her a sentence. I said, once you say that tomorrow morning, when you get to the franchisor meeting and he expects you to hand over a certified check for $45,000, you say that and they're going to object. And here's their objection. And then here's the second sentence. And I rehearsed it with her so she memorized it. And she went the next day, and the CEO of the franchisor organization was there because he wanted 45,000 bucks from her. And she said the first sentence, and he was startled. And he gave the same objection I told her that he would give. And then she said her second sentence, and I told her, zip it, wait for them to answer. And he said, well, I can't give it to you for zero, but can you accept $6,000 of our hard costs? She saved $45,000 minus six. She saved $39,000. And Joe, my Orbit coaching used to be $100,000 US, but I've reduced it because of COVID, because of the lockdown, to only 35. And it's still at 35. I just haven't bothered putting it back up to 100,000 yet. It's still at 35. She paid 35,000 and she got $39,000 back in the first session.
Wow.
And I have so many stories because when I add my wisdom, which in nuclear energy terms and subatomic particle terms means adding huge energy. When I add huge energy, in my terms, my wisdom, to a client, they start vibrating at such a higher level that the goodies of the universe start flying towards them. Their health improves, their relationships improve, new friends start showing up, serendipity happens, amazing coincidences occur, and they can't quite figure out why everything is so amazing. And it's because they're vibrating at a higher frequency. And that's not just a hippie woo-woo word. You are nothing but energy. And when you vibrate at a higher energy, you get the more benefits of the universe.
So, Raymond, let's say you have a dream tonight. You run into a 20-year-old version of yourself, and you could give that version of you a piece of advice based on the wisdom you've gained through all of these years, successes, and overcoming. What advice would you give your younger self?
First of all, that is a dazzling, brilliant, over the top genius question. That is so amazing. I've actually thought many times, I wish I could interview myself when I was a kid. And I don't know how little that guy knew. I'm afraid to find out. But the advice I would give him is always have a coach, because a coach has already figured out what the path is like. A coach has already figured out where the landmines are. Sorry for that horrible example. But the coach knows where the pitfalls are and can guide you by them and comes up with such dazzling ideas. And I couldn't, you see, here's the funny thing. Sometimes I'll ask my coach a question and he'll give me the answer and I'll slap my forehead and say, for gosh sakes, if one of my coaching clients asked me that question, that's the exact answer I would give them.
Yeah.
But when it's my own life, I can't figure it out.
Yeah.
I just can't figure it. And here's my famous line. I think you'll love it. When you're in your own fog, it's foggy.
Yeah.
So when my coaching client asks me a question, I'm not in my own fog. I got my coach hat on.
Yeah.
But when I ask my coach a question, I am in fog. I say, I can't figure this out. What should I do? And then he gives me the advice I would have given my client. It's very funny.
So, what's the best advice that you've ever gotten in your life?
Oh, I'm the only person in the world that has ever been granted permission to be in the Chicken Soup for the Soul series of books and also the For Dummies series of books. Those are the two biggest non-fiction branded series in the universe. And I'm the only one ever that's been in both of them.
Wow.
And I have some really good clients, and I wanted to get them into one of those two series, but both of them have closed. They're not using outside, quote, contractors to build their books. And so I called my coach and said, what should I do? And he said, start your own. I said, start my own? If I start my own, it'll be nothing when it starts. And he says, both of those were nothing when they started. I said, good point. And he said, also, both of them have a problem. For Dummies sounds like you have to be a moron to buy it. And Chicken Soup didn't mean anything when it started. Eventually, people figured it out. He said, you have a chance to come up with a name so that if somebody gets into your nonfiction branded series, everybody will know them as an authority. And I said, Nito, I got the answer. I'm calling it The Authorities. And he said, Raymond, if I had to start a nonfiction branded series, you'd be the person I called because you're the only one who's ever been in both of the most famous nonfiction branded series. And so I started it, and I'm up to almost 100 people that I have accepted into my program. And for them, they get gigantic increase in their brand, gigantic increase. They're able to say, I was admitted into the nonfiction branded series called The Authorities. And everyone said, oh my gosh, you must be an authority. And for me, what does it look like? I charge 20,000 US dollars times 100 people so far. Will you multiply that out? That's a lot of millions of dollars. And it costs me almost nothing. And it costs me almost no time because my staff takes care of it. And so I make lots of money. But more important, my clients make lots of money because I won't let them in unless they can convince me that they can make way more than $20,000. And if they can convince me of that and they have a noble topic, then I admit them. And so they make way more money than they ever imagined. And so do I, because I came up with the idea.
So at the end of the day, you have all these pockets of people that know you, family, friends, clients, colleagues, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
A magician. I'm a magician. I make things out of nothing. I make things appear out of nothing. I come up with an idea. Some of them are crazy. And I have a board of directors that hopefully sifts out the crazy ones because I think all my ideas are great. But they let some of them through. And the clients that get engaged in that particular business or workshop or retreat or coaching service, their life enormously expands. But I'm a magician.
Yeah.
I think of myself as out of the ordinary, not part of the ordinary. I see the changes, particularly in my coaching clients. I mean, one of my coaching clients is in Belgium, and he is a freelance architect. And we have 3 or 4 or 5 gigantic opportunities that he's working on. And I said, now look, keep focused on those opportunities. Don't worry about the day to day. Just set a goal of how much you want to take in on the side, hardly without even thinking about it. He says, yeah, I'll need maybe 10,000 euro. And I said, 20. He said, okay, 20,000 euro. And he said, but that's a lot of work. I said, no, 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 that's not. Focus on the 5 things, the 5 giant elephants that we're trying to capture. And on the side, 20,000 euros will just come in on its own each month. And now, after just 2 months of coaching, 20,000 euros a month is just coming in on its own with his hardly paying any attention to it because he's vibrating at such a high level that the goodies of the universe are just flying at him. And he texts me almost every day saying, Raymond, is this ever going to stop? I'm flying. I can't believe anybody could fly this fast. It's,
That's wonderful.
it is.
Yeah.
It,
So let me ask you this before we get to the good stuff of how people can reach out and learn more about you and hire you. If you could see one event in human history with your own eyes, what event would you love to have witnessed?
the dinosaurs.
Yeah.
I dream of sitting in some safe place, some safe tower, and just watching the dinosaurs. I wish. And I've asked that of many people, and they say they want to meet Jesus or they want to see Joan of Arc, something like that.
Hmm.
I don't want to meet any individual person. I just want to see the
Yeah.
dinosaurs.
I'd love to grab a ride on that time machine. Raymond, if anyone wants to hire you, learn more about you, anything involving your world, where do they go?
Email help@aaron.com. AARON. Help@aaron.com. It's answered by my chief financial officer, and whatever you want, he will help you get it. And if you're interested in being coached by me, he will do the first audition. And if you pass, then he'll pass you on to me, and I will personally audition you. And the audition isn't difficult. It's not scary. I just need to know that you're coachable and that you have the potential to earn wildly more income than you have now.
Raymond, it's been an honor and a pleasure, sir. Thank you for your time today. Thank you for your story, and keep on making magic.
I love you, Neon Jazz.
I love you too. Thank you. Have a great day.